Now we're going to talk about case two and the conclusions that come out of this set of assumptions. And the one change that's made in case two is that now we assume taxes will exist, so that's more realistic. However, we still assume that it's not possible for a company to go bankrupt. Okay, so then what's the best debt to equity ratio in this case? Now, if you think about it just at a very high level, um, both of these two changes tend to favor debt. Okay, so if now taxes exist, then what ends up happening is out of the two sources of financing, debt and equity, equity is not tax deductible. So dividend payments the company can't deduct, but interest is. So you're going to get a tax savings or a benefit for the interest expense that you have. So then the more debt you have as a percentage of your equity, the more your tax benefit. And debt is cheaper to begin with as well. So that's also a good thing. So the taxes change favors debt. And the other thing also favors debt because now there's no risk. It's not possible for a company to go bankrupt. And that's really the biggest risk with debt is you miss one of the payments, the company can be forced into bankruptcy by the bank. So if both of those two things favor the concept of debt, then it's sort of fairly intuitive to understand that the company should maximize debt. In this case, the more debt you take, then the better off you'll be. And you can't get to 100% debt because you always have to have at least one share of equity. But in this set of assumptions, you probably want to get to 99.99%. And what you'll do in that scenario is you will maximize the value of the firm and you will minimize the weighted average cost of capital. And I'll draw the same two charts that we did for case one, the one for proposition one, which was the value chart, and the one for proposition two, which was the weighted average cost of capital. So again, the horizontal axis is showing you how each of these changes as you move towards the right and you start adding more debt. Okay, so um, if you look at a scenario where, say, case one was going on, then essentially we had two flat lines that were going across. The value of the company, and I'll write VU, that's value unlevered. And in this case, it doesn't, unlevered means there's no debt. But in this case, it doesn't matter if the company was levered, had debt or not, it was going to stay the same in case one. Okay? And the weighted average cost of capital for the companies, well, I'll get to that in a second. Let's say the value of the levered firm, in this case, would be for case two. What is the value of the levered firm? The more debt you add, the more the value goes up because of those two reasons we talked about earlier, the tax deduction and the no bankruptcy. So that's the difference between the chart for case one and case two. The case one is in pink and case two is in purple. Now, on the right side, the cost of equity essentially was the same as the weighted average cost of capital. RU I put as the cost of unlevered equity, meaning there was no debt in the company. But remember, it said that even if you added debt, the cost of capital wouldn't change. In the case of case two, the cost of capital continually goes down. It'll never get to zero, but it'll be sort of a curved line that goes all the way down. And again, so what I've said is the two pink lines will represent case one, and the two purple lines on the chart represent case two. And you can see in case two, it's clearly obvious the more you increase your debt, then the better off the company is, both from a value and a cost of capital. And remember the concept here, unlevered essentially just means no debt whatsoever. So there's a couple of formulas in this case that we didn't have last time, and I'm going to write out all the formulas and we'll do a calculation with them in the next tutorial. The first one is that the value of an unlevered company is equal to EBIT times 1 minus the tax rate divided by the unlevered cost of equity. And in this case, EBIT is assuming to be a perpetual EBIT forever. So it's the same income that it's going to earn forever. It's a perpetuity. Now that value, once you add debt, will go up to VU is equal to debt times the tax rate, which is the tax shield. So that's the tax benefit you get. And the last formula is that the levered cost of equity will go up or will become RL is equal to RU plus RU minus RD times your debt to equity ratio times 1 minus the tax rate. And RD is the cost of debt.